Howdy, 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 everybody, and welcome to the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship here at Barber Motorsports Park here in lovely Birmingham, Alabama. I'm Austin Knight. I am joined by Avery McDonald, Tim Delisle, and Frederick Nichtel up there in the production booth. It's a 18-degree day here with a 19 degrees out on track. Cold track, honestly, than we're used to here in Alabama. I'm also joined by Avery McDonald and special guest Tim Delisle. Welcome to the booth, guys.
Wow, it's great to be back here for the Formula 3.5 series. It took a couple weeks off, but it's so great to see some of the more talented drivers here in iRacing back in the 3.5 series.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to trying to be Martin Brundle, but probably failing miserably.
You got other drivers to look forward to and compare yourself. Don't always have to compare yourself to Martin Brundle. DC, he's up there as everything, but as Avery was taking a week off last week, you're taking a week off this week, but you're joining us, not really taking a week off, you're joining us here in the commentary booth.
Yeah, I'm still very nervous about this. Maybe not quite the same as if I was racing, but yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, a few questions. Why this race did you want to be in the booth than out there on track?
I've never actually driven the track before. It's very tricky, as we can see here. Might actually, just while we're on board with Paul, take a look at it. We're coming up to the hardest part of the track here. It's braking downhill, braking while turning, coming down to a very bumpy curve there. And Paul's actually missed the apex slightly, which is going to compromise his lap. Came up to a nice fast S's. Might be struggling in a GT car, but it's easily flat here. Coming up to a bit of a harder section here. Lift on the left, a dab of the brakes on the right-hand side, back on the throttle, and then you're just going to try to get the car lined up nicely, just left of center, squeezing the brakes. It's really easy to lock up here, but you've got to try to keep the car positioned to the right, open up the last corner, get on the throttle as early as you can for the run down to the line. We can see what lap time Paul has done.
Sets him in 8th place.
Austin, that's a pretty close little gap. With 0.3 of a second from first all the way down to 9th. So I mean, the gap is pretty tight here with all these tricky turns.
Yeah, Barber is one of the more famous road courses in America. It's not that famous for overtaking, so it's more of a driver circuit of how much you know the circuit, to have the feel down, to have that rhythm down for that start of the race when everyone's kind of close together and you try to pull yourself away. Because if you look at the track map, you're going to notice that this track is full of medium speed corners and high speed corners, so it's going to be very hard to get the actual lunge on somebody. The best overtaking chance you have is going into Charlotte's Web, and that is that slight hairpin right adjacent, right behind the start front straight, as Paul Ilbrink is coming onto the final turn. And across the line, Paul Ilbrink sets himself all the way up into pole with a 1:08.527, takes it by 1/10.
Very good lap from Paul there. It's the thing with these cars, the tyre warm-up is quite slow, so first qualifying lap you can almost throw it away. It's very hard to set a competitive time on that first lap, which puts all the pressure onto that second lap, so he's dealt with it well.
Yeah, tire warm-up is going to be very important, especially on the first lap, where these guys have to struggle with this track being very high-speed corners. The tire grip's going to be very low, so expect a little bit of caution on the first laps. Avery?
Yeah, like we were saying there with that, for the best overtaking spot, you're going into turn 1, you have that big, long turn 2 and 3, and that's going to really, you need to get a good exit out of there to make a good overtake into turn 5, Charlotte's Web. And I tell you, this start could be a little bit sketchy. We got a couple minutes till we get to the grid. It's going to be very important for these drivers to get a good start with how technical this track is.
Indeed, it's going to be...
Sorry, I was just going to say the interesting thing about that Charlotte's Web corner is that it's very bumpy right on the apex, and it might be okay in other cars, but the 3.5 really doesn't deal with bumps too well. So if we do see people going for overtakes there, we could see some fireworks as well.
Yeah, fireworks are something that we absolutely love to see here at Barber and in the iRacing Formula 3.5 series as we are here for round 11 of 12. We're nearing the end of the season, and that means season 3 is about to get underway, and funding for season 3's broadcast here on Apex Racing TV is live on the iRacing forums. Greg Olson has made a post on there. So go into the iRacing Formula 3.5 forums to find out more information on how you can support this series and its broadcast.
Yeah, what a really great series this has been. My first season, kind of really getting my feet wet, and really noticed this has been a fantastic racing. We have a couple tracks like we had Sebring earlier this year, bumpy. So you get some really good racing, you get some awkward crashes, but at the end of the day, you get some of the top drivers. Back to you, Austin.
And here's your starting grid here at Barber Motorsports Park. Starting up on pole is Paul Ilbrink ahead of Renard Augusto, Edward Samborski, Duar Perez, Rob Crouch, Theodore Burns, Phil Reed, Steve Honan, Omar Baja, Fabio Do Camaro, Jason Henrique, Shane Russell in 12th place. They're followed by Phil Reed, Steve Honan, Omar Baja, Fabio Do Camaro. Wait a minute, I said that name already. Luke Groom, Rob Bohr, Karsten Huth, Thomas Nold, and Juan Parada Jr. at the end of the grid. Sorry about that hiccup. We're completely backwards.
It's okay, Austin. Everybody makes mistakes once in a while.
Yeah, it happens, and it's very happening this season. And one thing, donations were done for the regular season, but next season, Tim, you're going to like this. 13 weeks instead of 12.
Lucky for some.
Unlucky for many. And I made a meme schedule idea to just put these things in Talladega and just keep the ridiculousness alive. I'm pretty sure that one got shot down by everyone. But hey, 13 races next season. There's 2 more left this season, so let's keep our eyes on the present as we're just waiting on Paul to grid on up. There he is. And I can tell you, I'm getting ready, and I'm pretty sure these guys are getting ready because I can hear the heartbeats are rising, and so are the revs, because the 5 red lights are coming on, and we're going green flag racing for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship Round 11 here at Barber Motorsports Park. And what a dive by Samborski going into turn 1. He snatches P2. Very clean start for most of these guys heading into Charlotte's Web. And Renard Augusto holding off P3 down onto the inside ahead of Duarte Perez, Rob Crouch, Phil Reed, Burns, Baja, and Henrique, followed by Camaro, your top 10. But what a start by Samborski.
Yeah, what a start. He knew he had to make a good move to get into second place, and that was a great spot, a great spot, get a great run coming out of that under the lung straightaway, clean through for the first half a lap. Very impressive.
It's very important to make those early moves because it is hard to pass here. I mean, you're barely going to get towards the rev limiter or have enough time to get it.
Crouch looked down onto the inside, Pierce through the exit of roller coaster. Pierce just unfortunately got turned around, and also Omar Baja has gone into the pit lane. So chaos at the end of the first lap as we look back at the action at the front.
Yeah, so a semi-clean lap.
I'm sorry for the interruption, but Ilbrink, he got a bit sideways, and now taking the lead is Edward Samborski, and they're going to go side by side into Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, you got to make the moves when you can. When an opportunity like that strikes, if you don't make that move, it may not ever come again. Samborski takes over the front spot.
This is going to be a 3-way fight for the lead between Samborski, Ilbrink, and Augusto if all these guys stay in the tow. But you can see Ilbrink struggling to keep those tires in control. They're already overheating, and you just can't keep that car pointed straight. Tim, you struggled with these tires throughout the season. How do they act when you just have one massive slide?
Yeah, as soon as you have a one slide like that, it's really tricky. Sort of the next 5-10 seconds, you're just dealing with virtually no grip. So at that point, you're pretty much a passenger.
Does it affect your confidence throughout the race that you can't push that hard?
Definitely, for at least the next couple of laps, you sort of got it in the back of your head thinking like, I can't let that happen again, and just letting the tires come back into the window. It's going to be a hard balance for Paul to strike for the rest of the race now.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting fight to see throughout the race between Samborski and Ilbrich. Another great fight is the fight for third place as Rob Crouch has taken that last podium spot, as we see Theodore Burns looking down on the inside of Charlotte's Web, but unable to get the exit down. And now Theodore Burns under pressure by Phil Reed.
Yeah, Crouch made a really big power move to get by Augusto, and a really nice move to get into third place. But this battle ain't over. We're only on lap number 3, Austin.
We're only on lap number 3, but it feels like the final lap, honestly, with how crazy this race has been. Lead changes, dives, and everything. But wow, what a opening first lap we've had. You get to see smoke from lockups from multiple drivers. Phil Reed just stuck on the back of that orange, blue, and white car of Theodore Burns. Phil Reed's got a run, but he's actually going to lift off and just sit behind him. As we see Augusto up there going a little bit off track, and he's struggling with turn 1.
It looked like Phil was actually lifting a bit there to try to set up a pass coming in Charlotte's Web. It's a better overtaking opportunity, but I think he's overdone it a bit and didn't quite close the distance in time to have a crash.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying to go for the over-under in Charlotte's Web, but the tricky part about Charlotte's Web, it's a double apex corner. The over-under is a rare move that will work, and it actually favors a wider line than a tighter line, and it's just going to be, it's just so hard to actually make a pass in the turn part of that corner actually work. But Phil, he's looking for that draft. They're going to go side by side at the entrance of Roller Coaster.
Yeah, nice power move by Burns. It looked like a really good move. You know, these drivers are, you know, oh.
Phil with the send. Phil and Theodore Burns side by side. We're drag racing here in Alabama. But Theodore Burns looking around the outside, and he's got him.
Yeah, great move by Burns. But this battle ain't over. They've already overtaken each other a couple times, so just wait a couple turns, you might see it again.
And I can watch it again and again and again, put it on a record, and let the DJ roll with it. It's beautiful to watch these cars fight.
Phil's had a good run here. Is he going to have a look into the chicane? No, not quite.
And there's also a crazy fight behind it between DeCamaro and Henrique. And also Russell and Honan are having a good fight for 13th.
Yeah, Honan's definitely out of position down there. I was watching a race this time yesterday, and Steve actually won the race ahead of Ed Samborski. So, yeah, we might be able to see him come through the field later in the race.
Yeah, he's down 5 spots from his starting spot, so, you know, the last couple laps have been quicker than the drivers in front of him, so he's just gonna have to try to work his way through the field. And, you know, it's a long race, and you got some time on his hand right now, so no need to really push it too hard.
Speaking of working through the field, the current hard charger is Juan Parada Jr. sitting back there in 11th place. He's up 6 spots from where he started at the back of the grid. And he is also in a fight with Rob Bohr to be the hard charger of this race. But I would say the hardest charger has to be the guy up in the lead, Edward Samborski, starting in the second row, and he's just been making moves and taking opportunities. And he's actually starting to pull away from Paul Ilbrich.
Yeah, when the opportunity for him to make that pass at Ilbrich, when Ilbrich had that little off, you know, he took it, and that's what you have to do to try to win these races. You have to take every opportunity you have and to take it to the fullest, and that's what he did. And now he's just got to be mistake free.
Tim, you've been out in front multiple times. Does the nerves get to you whenever you're in front, or what's the most scary part of leading this race?
Having Paul behind you, it is a very scary thing, and what makes it even harder is Paul tends to save his DRS. As we've talked about before, there's 8 DRS uses per race. You can use them at any time, but Paul tends to save them for late in the race. So, if you're keeping him behind but using a couple of DRS activations to do it, you just know that he's going to be charging late, and that's a very scary thing. So if Ed can hold him off, it'll be very impressive.
Yeah, and last time Samborski was in the lead at the start of the race, that was at Zandvoort. And unfortunately, middle of that race, actually on lap 7, he unfortunately made a mistake after having Paul Ilbrich dance on his bumper for most of that opening sector. He just got a little bit loose and he went into the wall. Are we going to see a change Edward Samborski here, or are we going to be seeing the old Paul Ilbrich mind games?
Yeah, you never know.
Ilbrich's just gone purple, 2/10 faster, so he is closing that gap, and I think now he's actually within a pretty good slipstream here. You need about 0.6 of a second, and yep, at the moment he's only 0.3 behind, so it's getting dicey.
Yeah, you just see Paul just stuck in that gearbox, getting all the draft that he can, and that's going to be helping him a lot. Stay with Edward Samborski and play those games with him and try to force that mistake. But the risk he's running by running behind Edward is the loss of downforce, and here downforce is key, especially in these hilly corners, especially at roller coaster, the corner they're heading into right now, because your car gets very light, especially on the apex, because you crest that hill, there's no weight on the wheels, and you're all relying on downforce. And when you reduce downforce, your car is so light right there, and any sudden change is going to set that car spinning.
Yeah, catching up to Omar Baha, trying to he's be going a lap down, so we'll see what happens there. But from what we've seen before, Omar will give them the line. He's a fantastic driver. He had a really unfortunate off earlier today, so we're not used to seeing him this far back.
Yeah, Omar Baha's ahead, and lapped cars are something, well, last week we got very accustomed to causing a little bit of mischief, especially for the end result of the race. If you can recall, last week at Detroit, as we have a massive dive by Phil Reed into Charlotte's Web on Rob Bohr, but Bohr around the outside. He's got the speed up on today's, and Rob Bohr is going to save the position and stay in 8th place.
I tell you, Phil Reed, I think he's got a book of stamps because he's been licking them and sending them all day long.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not working for him. Now back to lapped cars, and last week, at the end of the race, 2 laps to go, race leader was lapping the field, and the bumps of Detroit struck, and unfortunately, he was collected in the incident, and that just shook the entire race up and gave the win away. And knife in heart moment, but no, Phil Reed made contact with Rob Bohr, went swinging off track. He's got damage to that front left wing, and his car is having a massive connection issues. I think he's back right now. I think he's panicking, and I think Rob Bohr is also panicking as well, because that was a bit spicy.
Yeah, that was definitely from our screen. I mean, all of a sudden, just went sideways. Take a look at a replay here.
Well, Phil Reed had a massive run going through the final corner. Tim, walk us through this move.
Yeah, it looks like wow, the move there from Rob has sent Phil's car into another dimension. Maybe it could be that the car was blinking on Rob's screen and he didn't actually realize Phil was there, because he's cut across to take the corner at the very last moment, and that's thrown Phil off. And luckily he was able to recover it, because if you even touch the grass with these tires, 9 times out of 10 you're going straight to the scene of the accident. So Phil's done very well to keep it together, and What's even more impressive is, I don't know if you guys know this, but Phil actually races using a controller. So I
What?
don't know how he does it. I know,
What?
it's crazy.
Okay, I need to ask Phil on what thumbs he has and what alien witchcraft does he do, because that is insane. Get this man a wheel.
Yeah, he's got custom thumbsticks, probably.
That's impressive. I have a lot more respect for him now. That is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where, like, enough people have told me that I kind of have to believe it's true, but watching him every time, I'm like, there's no way you can be that good with a controller.
Yeah, my skill level with the controller is terrible. My skill level with the wheel also isn't very good. So
I think that's bad. You should see you should see my skill with a mouse and keyboard at any FPS. Oh my goodness. It's horrible.
Samborski's starting to click off a little bit quicker laps, and Ilbrink a couple tenths quicker that last lap, and he's starting to pull away. Gaps almost to 1 second.
Yep. That gap has actually been rising. Samborski just holding Ilbrink in that draft. And something that Ilbrink's also doing when he's sitting behind Samborski, saving that draft in DRS with that lower downforce. I didn't mention it when I was talking about it, but he's also wearing out his tires faster because the load is more emphasized on the tires than the wings.
Yeah, Tim, you kind of said earlier in the broadcast that, only 8 DRS, you can only activate DRS 8 times. You said Paul likes to save his DRS, so I got a good feeling that's what he's doing at the moment, Tim.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see how many Ed's used. I do know that when he's in a good position, he does like to keep it by using those DRS activations quite early. We've seen that in other races before, so it's hard to tell. We did see that Paul was 0.6 of a second slower a lap before, so I guess he's made a mistake there. But yeah, we don't know if Ed's maintaining that lead through DRS or if he's just driving really well right now. But either way, we know that Paul will be strong at the end.
Well, that's just making this race even more exciting as the leaders are flying away from the rest of the field. The last podium spots is currently being held by Rob Crouch, who's sitting ahead of Renard Augusto, who is ahead of a 2-car battle of Theodore Burns and Jason Henrique. And Henrique is a name that we never really covered before here.
Yeah, Henrique's got a 3,300 iRating. Very, very talented driver. I watched a couple of his races before, but I've said this a couple weeks ago. This is a good opportunity at some of these not so popular tracks of someone who's always on the brink of making that top split to get featured on Apex Racing TV, and this is a good opportunity for them to kind of make a name for themselves.
So we take a look at the iRatings up here. Let's throw up the strength of field out there on the screens. And Tim, you're usually the highest iRating here. What's your mindset when you see a giant strength of field number?
Don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up.
That's obviously the right mindset to have, because yeah, that could just be dagger heart moment.
Yeah, pretty much. I tend to think of things not so much as an individual race, but over a whole season. But with the way the point structure works, it's the high strength of field races that give you the most points. So yeah, it's real hard and mouth stuff. You don't want to miss that opportunity, because we do have the 4 drop weeks, but yeah, even just a mistake or two can put you out of contention.
Indeed that they can, especially when you're the #1 car, and one mistake can make you lose over 100 to 200 iRating if it takes you completely out of the race.
Yeah, it was Watkins Glen last season, actually. I crashed completely on my own chasing Paul, and I think I lost like 150 iRating for that. So yeah, it's a hard lesson.
Just think of it as a nice donation to the others. Sometimes it's better to give than
collectively
receive.
bringing the strength of field up.
Taking a look at this battle for 9th place and battle for 10th. Nice 3-car battle. They're side by side. That's Honan and Hughes. And Steve Honan had a great dive, and he's going to swing it around the outside for a beautiful move, but he's overcooked the exit, and now here comes Hughes. Carson Hughes, Steve Honan side by side. They go heading into Hunt, and oh, what a beautiful move by Hughes. Honan gave the space, but now Russell's back there, and he's watching this great battle as they're still going side by side as they enter roller coaster. But Hughes and Honan, I think they mutually gave each other the space and the position right there to avoid what could have been chaos.
Yeah, they want to get to the halfway point to get that participation credit, so they're right on the lap 16 of 32. So maybe that's why they gave him a little bit of space.
So next time they're going to be side by side, they're just going to go all out.
Oh yeah. Send it.
Well, you heard it here from Avery first.
That was beautiful racing from both guys. We've seen Steve have some netcode incidents before. It's really unfortunate being in Australia. We tend to have, 300 ping or something like that. So we've had to deal with some pretty ridiculous collisions before. So I'm just glad that Steve was able to survive that.
Yeah, I'm very happy that all those drivers in there, and Russell is going to be very happy that they survived that as well, because he probably would have been collected in a incident involving these two.
Paul Hilbrink putting on the new quick time, 108.919, as he's starting his chase to catch up to Samborski. The gap has shrunk from 1 second to 0.3.
Yeah, Paul Hilbrink dropped down to 1.2 seconds. He's now back 0.3 on the back of Samborski. There's the contact between Russell and Hughes. Mid-corner and net code the size of a Star Destroyer between both of those cars.
Yeah, once you get past the halfway point and the participation credits are locked up, might be driving a little more aggressive, and there it was.
Yeah, there was a massive amount of net code, as Tim was saying, 300 plus ping at some times. And how difficult is it to drive around another car with 300 ping?
It's hard because you're not just trying to make a pass, you're trying to make a pass while giving just unbelievable amounts of room. As we're taking a look at the replay here, just trying to see what happened. Oh, yeah, so Shane Russell, another Australian, and you can see there was a mile between the two cars, and I'm sure Shane feels terrible about it, but there's really nothing he could have done differently. Just one of those unfortunate things, and it just sucks for Karsten.
And that was one of those netcode incidents that was actual netcode, not like, a lot of people use the netcode excuse as a wreck, but that's a total netcode issue, and it's just unfortunate, but some races you get netcoded, some races you don't. As you see,
this
Parada.
Is not a netcode. This is Juan Parada. Turn 1 is so difficult to get right. There's a bump mid-corner. If you hit that curb, the car just gets upset, and Parada went spinning around. Thankfully, he was stuck on the outside of the track, let everybody through before getting back onto the racing line, and Parada is now down sitting in 13th. So we were taking a look at this battle for 6th place between Theodore Burns and Henrique. The two Americans going at it.
A real solid run for Henrique. We don't see him very often here on Apex Racing TV. Up 5 spots so far, 1 position away from your biggest mover, but really done a great job and is in a striking distance to take over Theodore Burns to get into the top 5.
Yeah, but the top American is sitting at the top of the series. And I would tell you, the hometown crowd, even though he's from New York, is going to be very excited to see the old red, white, and blue on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend here at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. As Evan Samborski is in the lead.
Yeah, Elbrink putting on the pressure. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, just we've got a bit of shade that's come over the track now, and that'll lower the track temps, which means we should see the times start to tumble a little bit. See what Ed... It's 109.2, which is a bit slower than they have been, so he might be letting the pressure get to him a little bit. He's slow through turn 2, as Paul looks like he's pulling in the gap.
Yeah, track temp has risen since the start of this broadcast. We started at 19 degrees. It's now risen up to 21 degrees Celsius. And that is absolutely going to be cooking these tires.
Yeah, Elbrink putting on that pressure, lap 20 of 32. So, you know, getting closer to the 2/3 mark of this race. And, you know, if I was Samborski, I would be nervous. To tell you what, to have someone like Paul Elbrink behind you.
Yeah, I did notice through the tricky chicane there, Paul took a lot more curb than Ed. I'm not sure if that was a conscious thing on Ed's part, just to play it a little more cautious or what, but Paul looks like he's really on it right now. In fact, this might be the closest he's been yet.
Yeah, track temperature is currently sitting at around 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the Americans in chat and me. As I'm not and I believe Avery as well, because we're not very used to looking at Celsius over here. But they're getting closer and closer, and Elbrink is more confident right now as we're closing in on 10 laps to go here at Barber.
Yeah, what a battle we have here. It's they're dancing right now. We'll see if Elbrink will attempt to make the overtake. You know, a good possibility would be Charlotte's Web. Right now, Samborski's just trying to race mistake free, and he's done that, you know, pretty much so far.
Now, you can get up onto somebody's bumper right here pretty easy. It's just finding the opportunity to pass that is going to be hard. The people that have made successful passes here have been Samborski and Rob Crouch and Bohr. Those guys, I believe, are the only ones that made passes here cleanly on a one-on-one car. And the way they did that is, it wasn't a Charlotte's Web, the most obvious spot. It was actually in turn 1 and the final corner. They just held it back in the final carousel, and then they swung it in onto the apex out of nowhere and actually surprised them. And Samborski surprised Elbrink after Elbrink had that little bit of a struggle, and then he secured it in Charlotte's Web. So Elbrink, he's going to have to do something that we haven't seen him do a lot, is overtake somebody, then focus on his raw pace.
Augusto in the pits, not sure what happened there. He was sitting up in the top 5. And take a look at a replay.
He's got into the grass, and then a big snap and hard into the wall. Lost his entire front wing right there.
That's a nice little donut to get back going, though.
Yeah, it's so easy to do around here, and you can see Paul was right on the edge of that curb there, another couple of inches, so I'll do it in freedom units for the Americans here, and he would have been into the wall just like Augusto.
Well, I certainly appreciate you using the term freedom units.
I do what I can.
So both these drivers taking different lines to Charlotte's Web. Elbrink actually getting held up on the apex right there, and you get to see on how bumpy that apex is. You definitely do not want to be sitting on there for that long, and Samborski has the right mind as they're closing up on Thomas Knoll ahead of him.
On board with Samborski, just doing a fantastic job. You know, made a strong overtake to take over second, then made a great pass to take over first from the mistake from Elbrink, and he's been mistake-free so far. We'll see if he can keep clicking these laps off mistake-free.
Avery might be back, but his tongue isn't.
Yeah. You know, take a couple weeks off and you can't really talk. It's hard. Words are tough, man.
And speaking of taking a few weeks off, Tim, what's it like taking a few weeks off out of the car and then getting back into the car, is there like a relearning curve, or is it just instinct with you?
There's a little bit. I've actually been doing a bit of prep for Le Mans coming up week 2 of next season, I think it is. But I did jump back into the car yesterday to start preparing for Nürburgring, and it's like riding a bike, but riding a bike where you still fall off a bit more than you usually.
Some say riding a bike with teeth that wants to kill you.
That's a good description for this car in general, actually.
All right, well, y'all are crazy enough to master this car, and y'all are giving us a amazing show, and I have all the respect for y'all because I can't get to sit here around one lap.
Yeah, it's definitely a very tough car. And, you know, these drivers that we usually see in the top split are, you know, very talented at what they do, and they always put on a good show. And, you know, the great thing, I've said this before, you take a look at the flags for the countries here. It's drivers from all over the world, not just you don't just see, you know, all, you know, from one country. So it's really cool to see on this platform what it can do to put up some of the best drivers from all over the world.
And we actually have a quote from Renaud Augusto, who gave us another quote. To quote McClure, "I'm so stupid. Ugh." End quote.
Come on, Charles. Come on.
And this is the replay of Renaud Augusto and his incident, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to see. And Augusto is just kicking himself right now, but he has next week the final race to look forward to at the Nürburgring without the Grand Prix arena. And here comes Ilbrich looking down to the inside. This could be for the lead. Samborski gets in the room, and our new leader is Paul Ilbrich. He used DRS down the straight, and he snuck by Samborski. Now can Samborski hunt back on Paul Ilbrich and fight for this lead?
We'll see. Elbrick probably saved some of his DRS for this last 6 laps, and you know what a great power move by Elbrick to get into, you know, a spot that we said was a little more difficult to make the pass, but turn 1 has been the spot for the pass. Samborski made it, Elbrick made it, Bohr made it, Crouch made it. I mean, turn 1 has been the place to make the pass so far.
The replay of Carson Hughes coming out of roller coaster and into carousel. That's a lot of speed going through that corner, and this is not Tokyo Drift. And unfortunately, he went a little bit deja vu, and he's been in this place before.
Oh.
Russell, it looks like he's taken just a little bit too much throttle over the curb there. Even just a little bit of spiking the revs when you're on those bumps, and you just can't control it. So unfortunate for him. But just a great move from Paul there. He, I don't know if he took Ed by surprise, because he didn't put up too much of a fight there. So we'll have to ask him about that after the race, because he's always good for an interview.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta know when to hold them and you gotta know when to fold them. And at that point, he's like, I'm gonna have to fold them there.
Yeah, and you really don't want to have a 1-2 incident at the end of the race, because that would have, if both of them had contact going to turn 1, that would have made Rob Crouch the new leader. And I think the Aussie flag has been on the top step of the podium a little bit too much this season, which I'm pretty sure Tim is very happy about.
It's never enough.
What's your celebration whenever you win? What's your go-to celebration? Do you do a shoey or something?
Normally some fist pumping in the living room. Sometimes I will shout yes a few times. a la Daniel Bryan, for anyone who gets that reference.
Yes.
And then about a liter of water.
I like it how you live it up in the living room when you win a race. That's pretty awesome.
And then my girlfriend kind of just glares at me like she's doing right now.
Yeah, as somebody who doesn't really leave their hobbit hole, my parents give me some weird stares when they're like, he's very into racing and yelling at a computer.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't know what my neighbors think of me.
I've been given some weird quotes as well from the neighbors. Oh, and that's Phil Reed off. He was letting by Shane Russell, and no, he wasn't letting by.
Now that was for position, so something's happened there.
Yeah, I thought that was him being lapped, but no, Phil Reed went off and hunt. He does have that front wing damage that he's been struggling with for most of this race, but that's a strange corner to have that in.
Well, that had the potential for some carnage.
Yeah, he's run just a little bit wide there and too much throttle with too much steering angle. It's just lost the rear slightly, so he was lucky it didn't turn into a tank slapper. It was well recovered.
Yeah, great save by Phil Reed. Kept the nose pointed straight and avoided all the drama, especially with 3 laps to go. At this point, you just want to finish.
Yeah, you know, 3 laps to go, you're at the end. You don't want to just run the whole race and take yourself out with, you know, a handful of laps to go, because, you know, you never want to see that.
Or take others out as well, because that is probably the biggest feeling, as Rob Bohr got absolutely sent on through the carousel. Somebody got the outside edge of that racehorse, and it just went up, down, and swung it down to the inside. And Fabio Di Carmo jumps into P6, and what a fabulous move it was for the Four Brothers Motorsport driver, as he was looking down there, then he just took it.
That's beautiful. You can see Rob just ahead of him touch the grass a little bit on entry to that corner. So Fabio at that point's probably trying to line up a pass, and Rob left the door open and he just went for it. It was great.
Yeah, what's also great is that livery that he's running. That's a nice Formula 2 tribute livery on this Renault Sport Formula 3.5 car. Currently one of the best liveries, modern liveries right now.
And that moved Rob Bohr back to 7th and makes him only positive 7 spots. That leaves Jason Henrique, who's up in 5th. If he can get one more spot, he'll be our biggest mover of the race. Yeah, up 6 spots for him. What a great job by him.
Yeah, that was one of the overtakes, and probably one of the best overtakes I've seen. A few members of our chat, Amalia Ness, just overtake of the week. That might be a appearance on iRacing Top 10.
Yeah, we've had that a lot this season, having opportunities for a top 10 or not top 10 like at Sebring.
No, last week.
Look at Rob Bohr trying to get back up there. He's like, if he's gonna make that move on me, I want to make that move right back to him.
Yeah, here's Shane Russell looking on that move. But, he's hanging around the outside. Luke Groom trying to hold it on there, but no, Shane Russell, he's gonna swing it around the outside as it's a white flag here at Barber.
So Paul's got a pretty good lead here. All he has to do is just keep it together one more lap. Don't know if he's going to try anything spicy like going for fastest lap, or if he's just going to maintain that gap over it and take the...
Well, Ilbring, he's currently using DRS right now, so he is can't stopping, won't stopping, and he's giving it the business.
Well, purple sector 1. So...
Okay, he's playing games. He's going for it. Do I get a purple sector 2? he set identical sector 2s 2 laps in a row. Coming in to the carousel and into the final corner. He started on pole. He dropped down into second, but he's regained it as Paul Ilbrink takes the win here at Barber Motorsports Park.
And now he takes a nice deep breath with a couple fist pumps. And he's excited for that win. What a great drive for Paul Ilbrink. And another great drive for Samborski. And Rob Crouch finished out that podium. Great drive for, everyone for the most part.
Samborski's not a big member on the podium, actually. He's been usually finishing down there in 4th place, 5th place. We rarely see him on the podium, but when he does get on the podium, he is the happiest that he can be, as we're looking at the rest of these drivers right now. And Shane Russell's going slow. Russell's slow. Did he get a slowdown for that?
He's got some wing damage there on the right-hand side. Or am I crazy?
No, you aren't crazy. There is a scrape underneath the 15 on the right-hand side.
Well, you're crazy, but there is a little right side damage.
Well, thank you for the confirmation. I needed that. Yeah, that wing is canted a bit inward. Where did that come from? That is absolutely bizarre. I've never seen damage like that on a Formula 3.5. The rest of his car looks absolutely fine.
Oh.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that will do it.
That'll do it every time. Looks like he just overcooked it a bit. So who was the other driver in that? Was that Luke Groom?
It looks like Luke Groom. Well,
Yeah, so
here are your results, and Tim, since it's your guest commentator, do you want to read out the results?
All right, I'll try not to butcher any of these names, but it's Paul Ilbrink in P1.
Don't worry, I've done it so many times.
Edward Samborski P2, Rob Crouch rounds out the podium, so they'll be drinking a little bit of the bubbly together. And we have Theodore Burns P4, Jason Enrique in finishing out the top 5, Fabio Dacamo finishing P6, Rob Bohr in 7th, Steve Honan in 8th, so he's worked his way up. I think he was a lot further down earlier in the race, so that was good to see. Phil Reed, the controller Maestro, P9, and Luke Groom rounding out the P10. Then we have Shane Russell, Juan Parada Jr., Carsten Huth, who was unfortunate in that netcode incident earlier, Thomas Knoll, Omar Baha, Ronaldo Augusto, and Duarte Perez finishing out in P17.
Natural.
Bam!
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic, man. And speaking of interviews, we have our race winner here right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for a special interview, Paul Ilbrink with Tim.
Hey, Paul, first of all, congratulations on the win. So, you got pole position. Just take us through your qualifying here. We know it's very hard to pass, so did you do a little bit more preparation on qualifying this week, or how did it change your race prep?
That's always something I want to do, but in the end I end up doing like 2 or 3 quali runs or something. So I didn't really prepare anything special. And well, the funny thing was, like, I went out quite late. So before I started my first lap, because I think I crashed on my first attempt, out lap or something. So when I started my first lap, I could already see what times were on the board at that time, and it was Edward with a 9.1 or something. So I finished my first lap, and I didn't look at the standings, but I did a 9.0, and I thought, well, a decent time, let's just improve on the second one. But then I came to turn 2, I think, and I was looking at the relative, and it showed me being in P8, and I was like, what? So halfway in the lap, I figured that shit, everybody improved so much, so I was a little bit worried, but luckily I managed to do a proper second lap as well, so it was good enough for the pole.
Yeah, so you dealt with the pressure there really well, but then we saw a bit of an incident earlier in the race. I can't remember if it was lap 1 or lap 2, but was that just a case of cold tyres, or what happened for you?
I have no idea. Like, it was at the start of lap 2, out of turn 2 as well. Like, I lost it there. I have no idea what happened. Like, I didn't use DRS, and I lost it so early there that I don't know. I probably was a bit too much looking in my rearview mirror to see what the guys, how close they were. But I don't know. It was just very sloppy, and I spent like the next 2/3 of the race thinking like, why did I make the mistake? Like, it's impossible to overtake here, and now just stuck in second here, and I can't do anything.
Yeah, it is really hard to recover from a mistake like that, especially on a track where it's hard to pass, like Barber. So, were you trying to go for a pass on Ed, or were you just trying to keep the pressure on and try to force him into a mistake?
Yeah, like his pace was like really good as well. Like, I wasn't a whole lot quicker, and like when I made some like small mistakes and lost a little bit of time, it took quite a bit of effort to like get close behind him. But I was just thinking, well, I just need to stay as close as I can, like put him under pressure, make him force him into a mistake. But he did quite well. But in that one lap, I was like so close out of the final corner, and I thought, well, let's just use the DRS here and see what happens. And especially towards the end of the straight, I caught up quite quickly. So that's gave me the chance to pass into turn 1. And I didn't really expect that it would be possible there, but luckily it was.
Yeah, before the race we were talking about, I think it's turn 5, Charlotte's Web being sort of the main passing opportunity, but we saw a lot of great moves into P1, and yours was probably the best and took home the win, so congratulations for that. And this is always my favourite part of any broadcast. Before we let you go, are there any people you'd like to thank?
Not really.
Oh, come on.
No, I want to thank all my teammates at Radicals Online, Jesse for watching, and our partners and sponsors, Cranfield Simulation, Arma Center, Track Racer, Joe Real Timing, Turn Racing, MOATF Podcast, Pixel Dust with Skin, Six Sideways, you guys for doing the broadcast. And I hope, want to thank you as well for this nice season. I hope to see you next week.
Well, I heard you take a breath there, so I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping you could get it all done without a breath, but yeah, thanks to you as well. It's been a great season, and I'm looking forward to racing with you next week.
All right.
That was Paul Ilbrink, and I believe, Avery, you're standing next with Edward Samborski.
Hey, Edward Samborski, you got a copy?
I have a copy. How are you guys today?
Fantabulous. First off, congratulations on a great run. Finish on the podium here is a very difficult task. If you could take us to the start, that power move you made to get in the second, what was that, kind of a plan that you had, or just spot opened up and you just took it?
That was absolutely a plan. I knew I was on the reverse end of that actually yesterday in a race, so I knew it would work. So I just drove it in, and I was like, I have to get clear if I have any chance of keeping up with Paul. So I just drove it in as far as hard as I thought the car would take, and it just stuck. And I was like, oh, thank you. And then I saw the relative. I had like a, I don't know, 0.3 or 0.4 second gap. I was so thankful. And then coming over the hill, I guess Paul had a half spin because I saw smoke, I saw nothing, and then I just saw Paul over to the right. From my cockpit view, I don't know if you guys can catch it, but I really, between looking down and then looking back up, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah, you really made a great move and get into second place, and then Paul made that mistake to get it to the lead. What was kind of your mindset when you're going through the whole part of the race, and really just, you know you got a fast guy behind you? Were you a little nervous at all? Because Tim said he's nervous with Paul behind him.
Man, I actually had this thought in the middle of the race. I think you guys will get a kick out of this, but I felt like Paul was Jaws, and I was just that helpless spectator on the beach where you're just screaming as loud as you can. You know they're going to get eaten. Because I mean, this isn't an excuse, but I had new pedals this week, so I thought it'd be a good idea just to race. I'll have a nice calm race, get used to them. here I am. I got freaking Paul behind me, but I was like, whatever, I'll take it. It's a good result.
Yeah, anytime you're finishing runner-up is a great result. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Donald Forest Racing. Rob got my butt in gear yesterday. He whipped me pretty good in a race, so he gave me some good motivation to let me know I had to find the sharp end of the stick here. Thank Husenfeld and Fanatec, both of them guys. They both make great pedal sets. I'm very happy with both of them. And thank you guys for doing the podcast, and thank Greg for organizing, Mateo for doing the schedule vote, and anyone else who's actively an outstanding member of the community.
All right, that's Edward Samborski coming home with a second place finish. We'll see him next week, hopefully. Austin? Sorry, Austin. Tim Delisle. We got Rob Crouch. Tim, you there? Got Rob?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet.
Austin's disappeared, so Rob, congrats on the P3. How was your race?
Yeah, pretty good. I had it was an exciting start. I'm going to send Duarte an apology. I did netcode murder him at the end of the first lap there. He ran wide out in the grass, and I thought just for a second I'd have a shot up the inside, but then I gave up on it, and then he was spinning, so I was like, oh, bummer. Then after that, I redeemed myself by getting a really good pass on Ronaldo. I was really happy with that one. And the rest of the race was pretty boring. I was just watching Ed and Paul battle up and down the straights, and I'm pretty chuffed for third. But, felt like I had some good pace here. I wish I was up there with them, but just not quite that good.
Well, sometimes boring can be good if it's boring in a good position. But so from the race perspective, how was a tyre warm up for you? Because we saw a few other people struggling early on, and with these cold track temps, we know it's very hard to get temperature into the tyres. So how were you taking it?
I was really tentative, and I think that's why I did a race yesterday, and I had really good early race pace. I just attacked and felt really comfortable early on. But the practice that we were in before this race on the Australian servers was like 29 degrees Celsius track. I was actually making setup changes and just dreading that the race would be that hot. And so when I got into the colder track, I was kind of happy, but then I was probably nowhere near the limit. So I just actually watched Paul's replay of his weird lose on lap 2. Like in the compression dip of after turn 2, and I was like, wow, how does that happen? I just I think because I was in that little pack, I had to take it a bit easy anyway, so I was nowhere near the edge. I didn't really feel too much in the tyres, and by the time I was starting to push, the tyres were warm, so I was pretty comfortable.
Well, you ended up having a really strong pace. I saw the gap was sort of around the 4.5-5 second mark to the leaders, so you were every bit as quick today. So congrats again. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I've got to thank all the team. The DFR guys are great to race with. They really push me. This week's been a good bit of practice around Barber. It's an interesting track, so we definitely bounced off ideas off each other and set up stuff. So got to thank the lads for where I'm at. And thanks for you amazing commentator. I can't wait to listen to it. So thanks, guys.
Oh God, yeah. I won't be listening back. I hate the sound of my voice, but thank you and congrats again.
You should do more commentating and less racing. That's what I say.
Yeah, Tim's blushing right now, so.
Actually.
That was Rob Crouch finishing in the final spot of the podium. And, Tim, what a fantastic battle we had here today. A lot of great drivers. So how was your first experience commentating?
Interesting. It's a lot harder than I thought. Like you're trying to think of things to say, and meanwhile there's a battle happening on track, and you don't even realize it. Like your brain's got to be super switched on. So very different to actually being out there on track. But I enjoyed it, and hopefully I can be back again soon if you guys let me.
Yeah, we'll always let you back in here. You're one of the top guys out there, so thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see if you make any other guest appearances here on Apex Racing TV for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. We're heading into the final round at the Nürburgring. I've been joined by Avery McDonald, Tim Delisle, Frederick Nichol has been the one behind all the cameras and these lovely, lovely graphics. And I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.